How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain. The phone number is 877-973-7425 if you want to be on the program. Likewise, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast. Can I give you a different word to text, actually? Data, D-A-T-A, to 33777. Here's why. My publisher has announced that book sales for You Shall Be As Gods, they've slowed down. So if you haven't bought a copy of my book, I would love you forever if you text data to 33777 and get my new book, You Shall Be As Gods. It's about the rise of the woke progressives and how they're turning secularism into a new religion. Exciting stuff. So text data to 33777. All right, I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting to get to the story, and I just couldn't do it in a short segment. It needs to breathe like a fine bottle of disgusting wine. The one thing Jesus got wrong in the Bible, turning the water into wine instead of bourbon. I don't like grapes, y'all. Never liked grapes. When I was in my 20s, my preacher told me you got to take communion or else. So I hold my nose, and once a month will swallow the grape juice. Ugh, I hate wine. Oh, it's disgusting. I know. Rush Limbaugh used to tell me, you just haven't had a good one. Like, no, I had a very good one. Like, I'm going to gag talking about it. No, I don't like grapes. I don't like them. I haven't liked them since I got really sick on them as a kid. Refuse. Wine just smells like vinegar. I don't care. He's like, oh, this is such a fine Merlot. No, it's disgusting. Leave it alone. Get some bourbon instead. Nonetheless, we will let this air and like a fine bottle of wine. I say as I try not to gag. This is just too good. This is, the Nation. The Nation, they're the communists. You got the Nation and Salon. And the Nation and Salon are a group of people who, if the Soviet Union ever went to war against the United States, would be hoisting the hammer and sickle against their own nation. That's how far left these people have always been. The headline. The dark side. The dark side of the Democratic Party's embrace of football. Subtitle. The subtitle. The hyper-masculinity and violence of football connects to Kamala Harris's bellicose convention speech. It could repel young voters. It's talking about football. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I give you the top 100 most viewed programs of the year 2023. 98 of 100 football games. Football games. A State of the Union and some awards program. That's it. Of the top 100 most viewed, and this guy's like, it could repel young voters. You know what's going to repel young voters, you idiot, is probably your body odor, because I bet you think deodorant is a government conspiracy if you don't like football. One of the universally accepted truths of right-wing media is that the left is coordinating a war on football. As neurological data emerges from the long-term effects of football-related concussions over the last decade, the right saw this science as a ruse, a conspiracy to soften the game, weaken the American male, and contribute to the wussification of the country. Have y'all seen the new kickoff, as an aside? Have y'all seen the new NFL kickoff rules? Yes. Talk about the wussification of football. Yes. In 2016, when the NFL adopted rules to make the game safer by guarding against head injuries, Donald Trump said what used to be considered a great tackle, a violent, head-on-head violent tackle. Now they tackle being flag. Football has become soft, like our country has become soft. Donald Trump wasn't wrong, as an aside. In other words, NFL rules changes were just another facet of the scheme to socially castrate the American male. That a large percentage of these men, like Trump, never actually played football or paid its physical costs has been left unspoken when issues like violence against women or locker room bullying and how the league was hiding it all became national stories. The right bellowed that this was another anti-male attack from the beta men and feminazis. When President Barack Obama said in 2014 that if he had a son, he would encourage him not to play football, it was like receiving final confirmation of a secret, nefarious master plan to rival the Great Replacement Theory. I bet this guy plays soccer and unironically calls it football. Oh my gosh. All right. The platform, let's skip down here. The platforming of football as a patriotic totem cannot be separated from the sport's embrace of hyper-masculinity and violence. These two pernicious parts of the game connected smoothly with the themes in Harris's Red Meat Convention speech, nationalism and a shift to the right, alongside a bellicose declaration of war readiness, having the most lethal fighting force. This message was set to chants of USA, warming the hearts of even Meghan McCain. Oh my God. Hang on. I got to Google this guy, David Zirin. I bet this guy wears tampons to feel connected to his feminine side. Oh, good Lord. Let's read his. Oh, he's older than me. David Zirin is an American political sports writer. He's the sports editor for The Nation, a weekly progressive magazine dedicated to politics and culture, and writes a blog called The Edge of Sports. Has he written for ESPN? Oh, look at that. He's been a guest on ESPN's Outside Lines. Of course. Oh, good gracious. Oh, he's repeatedly called for boycotts of certain teams, states, or nations for political reasons, criticized Hank Williams Jr., defended Barry Bonds, supports boycotts of Israel, wants a boycott of Arizona. Wow. Wow. Zirin has contributed to The Nation, been a columnist for Slam Magazine and The Progressive. His first book, What's My Name, Fool? Sports and Resistance in the United States. Oh, so this is a guy who looks at sports as just another realm of politics. So a deeply malcontented person who has to read sports into anything. Wow. It may seem like the Democrats are playing offense. That certainly fits a sports cliche, but it gets the underlying political dynamic backward. Football and the reclamation of patriotic symbology is pulling the Democratic Party to the right. While the left never had a coordinated plan to seek pro-football, the last decade's exposure of the sport's corrosive nature is a good thing. People have the right to know the negative physical and psychological effects that can arise from playing the most popular sport of the country. Football and medical whistleblowers have exposed a right wing willing to look away from public health if it means pats on the back and campaign dollars from the reactionary billionaires that run the NFL. Claiming this sport in the NFL means claiming all the violent detritus that comes with it. When Colin Kaepernick, of course, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee in protest of police violence and racial inequity in 2016, he was banished from the league. A reminder to all players that any kinds of resistance politics would not be tolerated. That's why he doesn't like it. He's written a book on how sports can be resistance politics, and the NFL says, not our teams. This is what the Democratic Party is buying into, and it comes with risks. Democratic Party leaders clearly believe that the left is sewn up, and they are therefore free to roam the political wilderness for votes on the right. They'll use football as a way to get the message out. There are already plans for Walz to attend Friday night football games around the country, but embracing this sport could send the campaign lurching even further right. It could repel the young left-wing voters most interested in policy changes than who wins the football wars. Young people care about racism, the economy, climate change, Palestine, and a host of other issues given short shrift at the convention. Football not only won't be enough to satisfy them, its embrace may send a signal that the big tent isn't big enough for them. The championing of conservative symbols like football, in other words, could cost Harris and Walz the election, and it will be their own doing. You know, and I know, that the day after the election, if Donald Trump wins, he's going to have a piece of the day say, it was football, the most popular sport in America, whose games are the top 98 of 100 most watched programs of the year every year. It's the embrace of that cost them the election. And then he'll go stock up on tampons. My gosh. We call Tim Walz Tampon Tim. This guy is really like a walking one. Good gracious. When I was a kid in Dubai, so I grew up in Dubai, Charlie. When I was a kid in Dubai, they had this TV ad. And it was literally people dressed up in tampons. I'm not making this up. It was Kotex commercial. My sisters can back me up in this. And this is how they sold it. They just danced. Kotex, Kotex, Kotex. And they danced back and forth as if they were all happy. I had no idea what they were advertising. When I was like 3 years old, my mom had a Bible study at her house, and I got into her box. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were fake fingernails. I slid them onto my fingers and walked into the Bible study class, tapping along the wall as I went like I was some sort of like scary creature coming in. And there I had them all on my fingers saying, look at my new fingernails. I have no memory of this, but my parents shame me with this story in front of friends whenever I bring friends to their house. So I'm shaming myself now and telling you. And then I go to Dubai as like a 5-year-old, and here they are dancing on the TV. This guy could have been one of the dancers in the commercial. I mean, good golly molly, this is the embrace. This is an actual, not an AI computer, but an actual human American being who claims to identify as a male, wrote, and I quote, "The embrace of football could repel the young left-wing voters more interested in policy changes than who wins the football wars. Young people care about racism, the economy, climate change, Palestine, and a host of other issues given short shrift at the convention. Football not only won't be enough to satisfy them, its embrace may send a signal that the big tent isn't big enough for them. The championing of conservative symbols like football, in other words, could cost Harris and Walz the election. And it will be their own doing." Have you ever, do y'all know the people who, they get paid and they got to justify their pay by writing hot take? This guy is a sports columnist, supposedly. I'm using air quotes. This guy actually, he wrote this. I'm not going to say he doesn't believe it. He must believe this. He probably also believes boys can become girls. He also probably believes that soccer should rightly be called football and that it's the superior sport when it's not. It's boring. Y'all, this is who is on the other side, and we should be able to beat them, but for the grifters and hucksters and con artists on our side who are just trying to cash in. This is madness. This is the left in America. And they should be mocked mercilessly for this sort of hot take. The dark side of the Democratic Party's embrace of football. The hyper-masculinity and violence of football connects to Kamala Harris's bellicose convention speech, and it could repel young voters. Not as much as I bet your body odor does, buddy. Good Lord. Greetings. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're going to be watching football this weekend. So There's this place north of Atlanta. If you ever want a nice little place in the southeast to go, it's called Barnsley Resort. It's this English village along this green, and it's got this one of the only Fazio golf courses that's like out of the middle of nowhere. There's no development around it. And I'm going to go for the next several days and hit golf balls and smoke cigars and enjoy not being around anyone. It's going to be my quiet time. I'm even going to do some fishing. I'm also going to be doing my show tomorrow, but I'm going to do the show from there. I have my whole setup so that I can do my show with you tomorrow and then immediately go hit golf balls. I'm getting a golf lesson on Saturday. My wife and kids last Christmas, they gave me the gift of go to Barnsley by yourself and relax, and I intend to. I wanted to stay in their cabin, the Fuger cabin, but it's way back in the back by itself, but decided not to bust the budget. It's still going to be a wonderful time without any of you or my family or anyone else, except a few select friends who are coming by to hit golf balls with me. Should be a great time. But you know what I'm also going to do on Saturday? I'm going to watch college football from my balcony of my little cottage while I smoke a cigar. Maybe have an adult beverage. And I will think about the moron at The Nation and laugh at him that this guy, he may write about sports, but I'm pretty sure he's not a sports guy. He just needed a job and decided I can write angry hot takes about how the misogyny of sports. I bet he liked that pink-haired awful woman who played soccer, who the American soccer team sucked until she was gone, Rapinoe or whatever. I just not a fan of hers. It was nice to see the Americans win the gold medal in soccer after she was gone. Just one of those everything's got to be about. I just don't understand people like. I do politics for a living, y'all. Politics is my job, and I do not understand people who make everything about politics. Politics is supposed to operate in a small sphere of our lives. The problem is progressives, and now a growing number of progressives on the right. There are progressives on the right, by the way. They want politics to encompass every aspect of my life. I don't care about where my cow came from that I eat. I don't care about its name. I don't care about how it was fed. I just want a tasty steak. And I don't care about the politics of football. I just want to watch football. I want to play golf. I don't care about the environmental impact of golf, which, by the way, it's very environmentally friendly. I do want to watch the Rory McIlroy Scotty Scheffler game in Las Vegas against DeChambeau and Koepka. But nonetheless, I digressed. I got other stuff to talk about. When we come back, the Biden administration has decided to deport nuns, of all people. First, I got to tell you about Vision Computers. If you go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE, they can be your tech support solution. So if you do not have a computer from Vision Computers, if you did, you get this for free. But if you don't, let's say you got a dental office. You got like a bunch of dental assistants. You got 10 computers in there. And you got a bunch of ladies who are really great and men at putting braces on and taking braces off. But they're not IT people. They need somebody to help them with their computers. Well, you get Vision Computers involved, $179 a year per computer. Each of your fine dental technicians can be excellent dental technicians and then say, hey, my computer, I don't know what I'm doing here. Something's not right. Or the email's not working. They call Vision Computers. Less than 15 seconds, they get an answer, and Vision takes care of it for them. And you don't have to pay the six-figure in-house IT guy. Vision does it. VisionComputers.com. They're going to save you money. They're going to build you great computers, and the tech support comes for free if you get the computers from them. 404-COMPUTE, VisionComputers.com. Tell them I sent you. Save even more money with my name. Hello, my friends. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I got to talk to you about a wild political story, and a friend of mine forwarded this to me. They're two separate stories, and they're deeply related to each other. Backstory here. I may have grown up in Dubai, but I'm from rural Louisiana. And one of my mom's friends, my mom was in the DAR, and my mom had a friend named Maud Williams. God bless her. I loved that lady. She was Reagan Republican, hardcore conservative. And when I was in high school, she'd treat me like a grown-up, and we would talk politics, and she was fantastic. And as she was old and dying, a sister, Celio Montenegro Pesigan, of the Daughters of Mary, a Filipino nurse, would sit with her. She has this Filipino nun Sister CeeLo has been in the East Feliciana and East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana, serving since 2014. And she is getting deported by the Biden administration. They're not deporting the gangbangers. They're not deporting the Venezuelans who have taken over the apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. They're deporting a nun. And do you know why they're deporting the nun? She's done nothing wrong. Her green card expired. Now, here's the thing. Father Lamar Parton of St. John the Baptist Catholic Church is asking for help. Father Lamar explains that in 2020, she was out of status due to no fault of her own. The person who oversaw her visa in the church was out sick. The lawyer retired and shut down her office. The government was shut down. The office in which to file the paperwork for her visa renewal was closed due to COVID. So her green card expired. Her green card expired due to COVID. The people involved were sick with COVID. The government office in which you file the paperwork was shut down because of COVID. So her green card expired. So they began deportment proceedings when Joe Biden came into office. And they explained the green card expired because the office in which we had to apply for renewal was closed due to COVID. And the government said it didn't matter. And so they appealed. And the government rejected their claim. So they've appealed. They've appealed and appealed and appealed. And they've said it's not our fault. The person who handles this was out with COVID, and then the government office into which we apply was closed because of COVID. We tried. As soon as we realized the problem, we tried. And there was no one to whom we could get this issue resolved. It didn't matter to the government. The government's evicting this nun, throwing the nun out, because the government would rather throw out the nuns than throw out the gangbangers. The most Catholic president ever would rather evict a nun than gangbangers. But it's not just them. The Diocese of Paterson, New Jersey has filed a lawsuit against the federal government over changes to immigration regulations for religious workers, which has created a massive backlog in the processing of priest applications and renewals. This is a pattern with the most Catholic president ever administration. The change came as bureaucrats decided to add a special category of juvenile migrants to the same immigration category as religious worker visas. So there's a cap on green cards every year for religious workers. The bureaucrats in the federal government, not Congress, the bureaucrats decided to classify juvenile migrants into the same immigration category as religious adherents. And there are 100,000 juvenile migrants trying to get green cards in a program set up for religious ministers that have an allotment of 10,000 green cards. The change in policy, for which the government has offered no explanation, has created a backlog in permanent residency applications by clergy and religious serving in American dioceses who entered the country on R1 religious worker visas. Before the policy change, priests could enter the country on an R1 visa, begin ministry, apply for permanent resident status with a reasonable expectation they'd have a green card within 18 months before their 5-year R1 visa expired. Since the policy change and the resulting backlog, priests looking to convert their R1 visas into green cards can wait years, meaning they have to leave the country when their temporary visa expires and wait a year before they can return under a new R1. The issue is causing acute problems in many Catholic dioceses in the United States. Alongside the diocese, the lawsuit lists as plaintiffs Father Emmanuel Caballas and a list of other ministers, most of whom are Hispanic. At the U.S. Bishops' Conference Plenary Assembly in June, Bishop Mark Seitz of El Paso, chairman of the Bishops' Committee on Migration, told the bishops of the conference that following a national survey of the reliance of U.S. dioceses on foreign-born priests, the most important takeaway is confirmation that this situation is only expected to worsen with time. A priest applying for a green card today will be forced to wait an estimated 15 years before a resident visa becomes available to him. While noting the maximum time a priest can spend in the country under an R1 visa is at least 5 years, with a year out of the country before reapplying. This is simply not sustainable for our ministries, and it is devastating for parishes that will be left without a pastor when he's forced to depart the country at the end of his R1 visa. This has already begun to happen in some of the dioceses. The State Department acknowledges the 2023 policy change has created significantly longer worldwide waits for religious worker green card holders. While the department recognizes the importance of religious ministers and workers as well as their U.S. employers who lead faith-based institutions, only Congress has the ability to address the imbalance between the limited supply of EB4 visas and the increasing demand. The increase in demand for the 10,000 annual permanent visas granted in the fourth category of employment-based immigrants in the U.S. is a result of a policy change created in April that took effect in May of 2023, by which the government included special immigrant juveniles in the same immigrant category as people with religious worker visas. Under the previous policy, those 10,000 green cards were allocated so that no more than 7% of them are given to immigrants from any particular country. However, as part of the policy change, federal immigration authorities removed the 7% cap for special immigrant juveniles from Northern Triangle countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. The federal government made the change after deciding the applications for neglected or abused minors had been in the wrong queue for 7 years, and now they should apply in the same category as priests and nuns. And they say only Congress can fix it. So notice what the State Department is doing. The State Department made a policy change themselves that is now depriving the Catholic Church of priests and nuns in the United States and saying, oops, our bad, Congress is going to have to expand the cap and allow in more immigrants. You might be asking yourself, if the State Department made the change, why can't the State Department change it back? In fact, they can. The most Catholic president ever, however, has chosen not to do so, or to instruct the State Department to do so. The most Catholic president ever is overseeing the eviction of Catholic priests and nuns from the United States of America by design to allow illegal immigrants to convert into the country. They're prioritizing illegal immigrants over nuns and priests. I'm not Catholic and I'm outraged by this. As a good Presbyterian, I am outraged because this is a story from pillarcatholic.com about what's going on here, but it doesn't affect just Catholics. It affects others as well. For example, the United Methodist Church has been going through an upheaval and a schism. And conservatives in the church actually won the vote on gay marriage, and the progressives were in charge of the bishoprics. And so the liberals in charge, the progressives in charge, they just said, screw you people, we're not listening to anything you have to say. And so even though the conservatives in the United Methodist Church won the vote against, for example, gay marriage and gay ordination in the United Methodist Church, the bishops were mostly liberals, and they said, well, we don't care what the Democratic vote says, we're ignoring it. And so the conservatives said, okay, that's fine, we'll leave. We'll leave. And it was African bishops. It was the African bishops who were coming over to the United States, and they were the ones helping conservatives win. The fine, uppity white people in the Catholic Church of the United States are the progressives who don't really care what the Bible says. It was the African priests who take their faith seriously. And they were coming over voting in the General Conference, and they were voting conservative. Did you know that this past year they were going to have a big vote and the conservatives lost after the American State Department blocked the visas of the Methodist priests who were coming over from Africa? Like, they were coming over for the General Conference, and a massive number of Catholic Methodist preachers had their visas canceled. They had gotten them. They had approval to come, and they showed up at the airport to come, and their visas were no good. There hasn't been any congressional investigation into how mysteriously this could happen to help the liberals in the UMC in the United States with their vote. They wouldn't have otherwise had the numbers had that many Methodist priests come over. Fascinating how that works. So it's not just the Catholics. It's impacting the Methodists, it's impacting the Presbyterians, it's impacting the Baptists. You know, at this point, there are more people from Africa, Christians from Africa, coming to this country as missionaries than there are American missionaries going to Africa. That's how unchurched this country is now. It's the Africans having to come here and re-witness to the United States. And the Biden administration wants nothing to do with it. They're canceling the visas and they're deporting the priests and the nuns. This nun in South Louisiana, the parish priest says her ministry is essential. She keeps homebound parishioners of the Catholic Church connected to the community. She visits them in nursing facilities and in veterans' homes. She serves the church as a sacristan, setting up masses, funerals, and other services. She teaches religious education to children and a bunch of other acts of faith and service, not just to the Catholic parish, but to the community as a whole. She's going to be deported from the United States. She helps the widows, the orphans, the poor, the refugees, and the dying. And the Biden administration, they're not deporting the gangbangers. They're not deporting the murderers. They're not deporting the illegal aliens getting the DUIs. They're deporting the nuns, the priests, the pastors, and the preachers. The God-fearing are being deported, and the godless get to stay. That's the decision of the most Catholic president ever. And don't you forget it when the media plays up his religion. Between bank collapses with hundreds more teetering on the brink, regulators fighting a seemingly unwinnable war, interest rates at 22 years high and maybe coming down not even a full point. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, and they've been warning people about a secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war on cash, listen, get this critical report from Swiss America about the secret war on cash. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they can educate you on protecting your assets. The report takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save you on your retirement and finances. You get the free report by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's growing, so get the report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free just for you guys. What you do is you mention my name, Eric, when you call or text. Text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash, it includes digital forms of currency. It's spreading daily. The report is free, 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or just call, mention my name, or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. So it appears Hunter Biden is taking a plea deal, pleading guilty on tax issues. I was explaining to my kids the other. So my son, oh my gosh. Okay. So my son has a friend of his who's 14 years old who cuts people's grass. And my son says, so I asked him, Dad, about the taxes. How does he deal with the taxes? And his friend says, I don't pay taxes. And Gunnar asks his friend, says, well, I mean, you're making money. You don't have to pay taxes? He says, no, they're gifting me money for thanks for cutting their yard. It's not income, it's a gift. Carter says, Dad, I don't think that's how it works. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. However, he's not making enough money to have to pay taxes. There's really no crime here. It's just if he continues this in life and doesn't get to that point, dude is going to jail. And I said to my son, I was like, even Hunter Biden, the son of the president of the United States, could not escape the tax man. They're not. They're thankful I'm cutting their grass, and so they're gifting me all this money in cash. It doesn't even take Venmo, just wants the cash. I was like, oh my gosh, I can see federal penitentiary in your future, young man. Wow. Okay, I gotta leave you with this today. I gotta leave you with this. Donald Trump now says he lost by a whisker in 2020. And some of his longtime ardent supporters are furious with him for seemingly suggesting he lost and it wasn't stolen. The amount of intellectual vigor poured into the fight for whether or not 2020 was stolen. I mean, I know you and I, we might disagree on this, but he now says he lost by a whisker. I think that's a fair assessment of how things worked out for him, whether you do or not. But to see people who have otherwise supported him now attacking him for saying that, why did we pour all of our energy into this whole Stop the Steal thing? Ask yourselves that. Don't ask him. Ask yourselves that. I was surprised the media didn't blow this up even further than they did. My suspicion is they don't actually believe him when he says that's what he thinks he lost by a whisker. They think otherwise. But the fact of the matter is, at least we can move on to try to win in 2024. I continue to believe in the Democrats. Again, like I said yesterday, Kamala Harris would not be spending as much money as she is in Virginia, New Hampshire, and Minnesota if she were winning those states. She would not be spending money there. We are literally 60 days from today is the election. You focus on the states you need to boost. That's why Trump is focused on Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, because he's got to win those states. That she's over here spending money, do not believe her when she says it's about the Senate races. That is not true. Her polling is scary for her. Trump's going to win.